Hello, I'm Bernie Hayes, and my guest today is Vivian Gibson, author of The Last Children of Mill Creek, today on The Bernie Hayes Show. And welcome back. I'm Bernie Hayes. My guest is Vivian Gibson, the author of The Last Children of Mill Creek. Welcome back.
Thank you. Bernie.
So good to see you.
Good to see you again.
Tell us how's the book doing?
The book is doing so well. I still can't believe it. It's almost 5 years, and it just amazes me. People are so interested in what I was writing about in this community that I don't even know how to accept it.
How did you come up with the concept, The Last Children of Mill Creek?
The title?
And the concept itself.
The concept. Mm-hmm. I didn't start off as a book. Mm-hmm. I was just writing short stories about my childhood, basically for my children. My parents died before my children were born. Mm-hmm. And when I retired, I had time, so I joined a writing group and was just writing these stories, and one after another. I love that short story format because I could just get right into it, have a beginning, a middle, and an end in a short period of time and space. And people were very interested in it, and I learned that not a lot of people even knew about the community. Mm-hmm. I was primarily writing about my family, my friends, and my mother for the most part, but the community was in the background, and people seemed to gravitate to that. So someone sent some of my stories to a publisher who contacted me and said, "You have a book here." And it just sort of happened, and that interest in an erased Black community in mid-century still is very, very interesting. Not a lot has been written about that. And the book has just taken on a life of its own.
What was the fabric of Mill Creek that kept you all together and made you love it so much?
Community. We were segregated. We had to rely on each other. We had to create a life, institutions, a purpose. And so being isolated, 20,000 people, and when I talk about Mill Creek and 20,000 people, I'm talking about the footprint of urban renewal. So there was, in the real heart of that Black community, it was completely demolished for urban renewal purposes. First, they said to put in Highway 6440, but as you all know, that's only about a half-mile wide strip along the southern edge of that footprint, but they tore out 465 acres. But what I recall and what I love about that community is that we felt safe. I was a child. I felt safe. I felt protected. I felt supported. I called it a diverse, segregated community because all of our professionals were there, doctors, lawyers, teachers, our parents, our churches, our pastors. Everything was there to nurture a Black child in isolation. And that's what I think was so endearing about it.
For those who don't know, tell us the boundaries of Mill Creek. Where was it located?
Again, we're talking about the footprint of urban renewal, 465 acres that started on Grand. If you go to the intersection of Grand and Laclede, not Laclede, Grand and Lindell, go east, Lindell turns into Olive. You continue east on Olive to about 20th Street. You then go south on 20th Street, and you're right at the intersection of Union Station.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And behind Union Station, of course, are the railroad tracks. If you go beyond that, you're at Shoto, Papin, Shoto. Come back west to Grand. And so that's basically what they tore down for this urban renewal project. But I talk to people all the time who say, I was in Mill Creek and I lived on Rutger, or I was in Mill Creek and I lived on Franklin. So I'm careful to say that footprint of urban renewal, because Mill Creek, Black community certainly went beyond those boundaries.
What would people get from the book?
They'll get history. They'll get history of Black people that they've never read about. They've never read about, if they didn't live there or they didn't know people or didn't visit, they get a history of Black people in the 20th century in segregation in the heart of an urban center, which happened all over the country. And so they get to see what we were like, what we were eating, what motivated us, how we created institutions, how we valued education. All those relationships are inside that book.
I have so many questions for you. Tell us about urban renewal.
Well,
every city had it, you know.
Every city had it, and it was imposed upon us for sure. And it just disrupted our lives. Most people, I mean, there were no fences up to make us stay in these places, but there were things in place to keep us segregated, to keep us from living where we could afford to live or wanted to live. And they were basically covenants, agreements among white people to say, don't rent, don't sell to Black people and to Chinese people too. The Asians were a big part of that segregation. The Chinatown was just a few blocks away downtown. So the same thing was in play. But that was basically it.
You've been lecturing a lot about Mill Creek. Tell us about that.
I lecture at least 2 or 3 times a week for the last 5 years. I've been talking about this book for probably 7 years because I started talking about it as I was writing it. Then I started talking about it when I got a book contract. And once it was published, right in the middle of COVID, I was kind of isolated in my condo to try to then promote the book via social media. Now, I'm not a young person and I didn't have a big social media footprint. And so I had to develop that. And maybe because I was isolated in my condo with like the rest of the world, I had a chance to really get the word out via social media because everybody was locked in on the internet. And that's how it worked.
So what's your profession? Are you a teacher or are you a lecturer or
I am
author?
retired. I'm retired. For 30 years or more, I recruited volunteers, first for St. Louis Public Schools and then for Big Brothers Big Sisters. So I'm pretty much a professional beggar. So I beg the people to volunteer and not be paid. So, but now I'm retired and I think I'm blessed that I now have this purpose. This book has given me an opportunity to tell as many people as possible what life was like for Black people in urban situations like this that were part of, who became part of an erased community. So I'm telling these stories. My latest project in telling these stories is a Mill Creek oral history project where I'm interviewing residents in their mid-70s, their 80s, and their 90s to get these firsthand accounts of what I write about in the book, but getting another perspective from other individuals about what it was like, because we don't have that.
Okay. This is what I want to talk to you about, the new project that you're expanding on. And it's been so much history that I've learned just by being with you and around you. I still have a picture of us back from WGNU about 12, 14 years ago here on the radio show with me. Yeah. And well, anyway, Vivian Gibson is my guest, and she's the author of The Last Children of Mill Creek. That picture on the cover of the book, who is that?
That's me, standing in front of our house.
Okay, in Mill Creek. And we'll be right back. We're the New Life Evangelistic Center. We're at 2428 Woodson Road in Overland, Missouri. Reverend Larry Rice has been helping those in need for more than 50 years. Back with Vivian Gibson after this.
Just drive downtown St. Louis, drive by City Hall, and you'll see, what do they do? For a year now, a fence is all the way around City Hall and neighboring parks to keep the homeless people out. You talk about a visible enlightenment as to NIMBY and how it exists. Just take a look at St. Louis City Hall. Not in my backyard is what they're saying, but they're not alone. So many other people are saying, not in my backyard when it comes to the hurting and the homeless. So where are they going to go? What are they going to do? We haven't seen a single new shelter open in the city of St. Louis for 15 years due to something called plat and petition. And it's not just the city of St. Louis, it's St. Louis County, Jefferson County, Franklin County, Madison County, St. Clair County in Illinois. What are they doing? They want to ship their homeless to St. Louis. That's wrong. We have to see each county taking care of their own homeless people. And that's why we may have to file a lawsuit in the near future against Jefferson County and St. Charles County and St. Louis County to take care of their own homeless according to Missouri state law and start shipping it everywhere else. Well, in the meantime, we need your help here at New Life Evangelistic Center. We receive no city, state, or federal dollars. Our teams are out every day among the poorest of the poor. They don't need our excuses. They need direct help. We are having to distribute hundreds and hundreds of sandwiches, hundreds and hundreds of bottles of water. We urgently need water. You can bring it to 806 North Jefferson in Springfield or 2428 Woodson Road in Overland, Missouri. There are so many hurting people. Yes, in Springfield, we get 150, 200 homeless people a day, and most of them sleep outside. So we have to distribute tents and sleeping bags, and long underwear, and gloves, and socks, and hats. Why don't you have a drive at your church and help us at this time? Further information, call us at 1-800-334-3276 or 314-421-3020. That's 314-421-3020. Go to the website at nlecstl.org, and your tax-deductible gifts are urgently needed now. It's New Life Evangelistic Center, P.O. Box 473, St. Louis, Missouri. That's 63166.
God is our hope, and when we set our eyes on Christ particularly, we see that He has redeemed our lives. I hope that this message has helped you so much, and I pray that you would partner with us and join in the incredible work of giving hope to people who don't have any. Please go online to nlecstl.org and learn about how you can offer life-giving hope to those in most desperate need for that very thing.
Welcome back. My guest is Vivian Gibson, and she's the author of The Last Children of Mill Creek, but she has another project going. Ms. Gibson, tell us about that.
Well, I'm calling it as a working title, Mill Creek Oral History Project. Mm-hmm. I'm working with two professors at St. Louis University and a PhD student who is a filmmaker also at St. Louis University. His name is Khalid Abdul Qadir. And he's an award-winning filmmaker. So I'm hoping to do interviews of former residents and to perhaps do a documentary. Mm-hmm. We haven't quite figured out how we're going to do it yet, but it's very urgent that we get these interviews. Sadly, I had someone on my list when I called to schedule, he had passed. Wow. So that just made me understand even more clearly how urgently we have to get these interviews from the former residents. They're all beyond their 70s, for sure. I'm 76, and I'm one of the younger. Okay. The last person I interviewed was 94, wow. And very clear, and we got very good information. So that's an important project for me to do, and hopefully we'll have a documentary that students could view information, listen to those interviews for generations to come.
Yeah, there are books and documentaries on Pruitt-Igoe, Homer G. Phillips Hospital, and so forth. So do you think this will that the same attention?
I hope so. Mm-hmm. I hope so, because it's very clear to me that if you weren't part of that community, you don't know about it. Mm-hmm.
Why are you so passionate about this?
I don't know. Mm-hmm. I don't know, except I think in retirement it has given me purpose. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people are afraid to retire because they'll get bored or they don't know what they're going to do. I am so busy that I sleep well at night because I'm tired. But I'm also just very blessed to have this curiosity that I've had since childhood, and I still have it. It invigorates me. I'm doing tours, lecturing to students from 7th grade to graduate school. And it's just fascinating. There are students at 7th grade students at John Burroughs High School where they teach my book over a 3-week period to the entire 7th grade. And it's just really fascinating. And at the end of their learning and doing projects about Mill Creek, I go in and speak to them, and it is always the most informed audience that I have. They've read it, they've studied it, they've done projects, and they have really good questions.
Is it difficult locating some of the former residents?
No, it hasn't been. A few of them I know, but I got to a point where I had lots of women, and I didn't have a lot. I only had one man.
Okay.
And so on Facebook, I said, look, I'm doing this project. I got a lot of women. I need men. And people just started calling, sending me emails. And so now I have a lot of men.
For those viewing us right now, how can they reach you?
Well, I have a website, which is probably the easiest. I think that's my email address, but my website is very similar. It's Vivian-Gibson.com, and they can send me, they can see what I'm doing. They can read excerpts, they can get my bio, get lots of information on the website, but they can also email me at this address.
The documentary, how far is it in progress? I mean, how much progress have you made?
It's not
so far?
very far, except we're getting the interviews, and
Sure.
that's what's important to me. I didn't want to wait to figure out what to do and how we're going, what the end product would
Sure.
be. I know it's going to be built around these interviews, so that's what we're concentrating on now. So we have 4 completed, and we have 3 scheduled, and we may go as far as 10. But we'll see. But it's just very exciting. And it's my project. I'll do what I want to do. So.
Are there any physical structures left that you're filming that were part of Mill Creek?
Very few.
What's left? Yeah.
What's left? Of course, Vashon High School, the original Vashon High School building at Laclede and Garrison, that's now part of Harris Stowe State University, but it's the original building, thank goodness, where my father attended. My oldest sister, both my father and my oldest sister graduated from there. I graduated from the next Vashon after it had moved. Berea Presbyterian Church is still there. It now belongs to St. Louis University.
As most things do around that area.
Yes,
Right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it does not have the same name. The church Berea has moved to another location with their congregation. It's now called Il Monsterio. So I'm asking the university to change the name. They use it as a conference center. I'm asking them to change their name to something that reflects the Mill Creek community. I'm proposing Mill Creek Heritage Center.
Okay.
Because we can't use the name Berea, but there will certainly be information to show that it was a church, a black church that had been there since the 1800s.
Wow. Was Laclede Town a part of Mill Creek?
Laclede Town came after, and it was like a 4-square block kind of community that they just plopped down in the middle of all that devastation, basically around Berea Church. It lasted about 20 years. And I think they knew that it was planned obsolescence, that it wouldn't be there long because they didn't even really use bricks in a city that's known for its bricks. So it lasted 20, maybe 25 years. And but that was not Mill Creek. And sometimes people are confused about that. It was in that footprint. And I think it was part of a situation where when we were removed from that area, and there were protests and complaints about where we would go, how it broke up the community. The city fathers said that the residents would build something new, affordable housing, and that the people who lived in Mill Creek would be the first to go back. Well, that wasn't true. They built Laclede Town. Very few people from Mill Creek lived there. The people who did live there were handpicked. It was an integrated community, but it didn't last very long.
How can one reach you for you to lecture to them?
through my email. Just call me through my email if I have time and space, and we'll schedule something.
It's Vivian Gibson 72 at gmail.com.
That's right.
Okay. Some other things. What's the target date for your new project?
I'm hoping sometime early next year we'll be able to start putting together a plan for a documentary for this project. It requires some funding, so we have to figure out where to get some of this money from. I'm not a nonprofit, so I have to figure out a way to even receive funding for it if they're donations. So all of that has to be worked out. Right now, I need to talk to these people while I can talk to these people. So that's the first step.
What artifacts are you looking for?
Not so much artifacts. If people have photographs or anything from their time in Mill Creek, that's just icing on the cake.
Okay.
I want to get the stories. I want to get the first person accounts. I want memories. I want people to paint pictures with their words so that people can have a real sense of what life was like. And any artifacts, anything like that, it's just icing on the cake.
Okay. Vivian Gibson is my guest, and she's the author of The Last Children of Mill Creek, and she's talking about a new project, which is soon will be a documentary. We're back with Vivian Gibson after this.
Hello, I'm Larry Rice. Let me write you a creation prescription at this particular time. A prescription for healing, a prescription for hope. And that prescription is spending 30 minutes to an hour outside, experiencing God's wonderful creation. Job, in the middle of all of his affliction, let down by family and friends, when taken and beholding God's wonderful creation, experienced a healing in his soul. Read it yourself in Job chapter 39 through 41. Till finally Job declared, before I heard about you, but now I really see you, God, experience you in a new and powerful way. Paul speaks of how Christ holds all things together in Colossians chapter 1, starting at verse 15. Get up now, go outside, spend some time in creation, experience God's healing power in your spirit. Let him lift that high blood pressure and heal you from that stress and that anxiety as you take this creation prescription and move in the wonders of all of God's great creation.
Our subject today, Maggie Lena Walker. At the turn of the century, Maggie Lena Walker was one of the foremost female business leaders in the United States. She gained national prominence when she became the first woman to own a bank in the United States, and her entrepreneurial skills transformed black business practices while also inspiring other women to enter the field. She broke race and gender barriers as the first woman to establish and serve as president of a U.S. bank. Magdalena Mitchell, a daughter of a former slave, went to public schools in Richmond, Virginia, became a teacher, and established a newspaper before founding the St. Luke Penny Savings Bank in 1903. She later served as board chairman of the bank when merged with the other two Richmond banks. The resulting entity in 2009 was recognized as the nation's oldest continually African-American operated bank. On December 15, 1934, Walker died from complications due to diabetes, and her house in Richmond, Virginia has since become designated as a National Historic Site by the National Park Service. Maggie Lena Walker.
God loves a cheerful giver. Even though things are really tough right now, you can make a difference in the lives of so many. New Life has been doing this work for 50 years, and we have seen God's gracious goodness through people like you who have participated in this work. There are so many people who are suffering. More people are becoming homeless for the first time with the rising costs of inflation and food and housing and so many other commodities. We need help. You can make a difference today in the lives of so many by giving your tax-deductible gift to P.O. Box 473, St. Louis, Missouri. Or go to newlifeevangelisticcenter.org or call to get involved in this incredible work.
And welcome back. I'm Bernie Hayes. My guest is Vivian Gibson, the author of The Last Children of Mill Creek. Ms. Gibson, the book is so interesting. There's so many different things that I can relate to from Chicago, you know, because it came right down State Street, right through Building Dan Ryan, broke up everything that we knew about in Bronzeville. But for those who have not read the book, tell us what they'll find inside Fast Children Mill Creek.
They'll find, I think, heartwarming stories about a childhood, about a little girl who is just observing. And I write the book from the perspective of a child purposefully because I wanted to talk about what I saw, what I heard, how I felt, how people made me feel. And that kind of cleared me up from telling anybody else's story. It's very hard to tell your personal story when you're in a family and not tell other people's story.
Sure.
So I was very, very careful to remain a child in this book and talk about the things around me, how things were happening, unfolding. And that's what you see. You see this perspective. You see me in school, in church, my issues, my fears, how I grow, how I learn. And in the backdrop is that whole community embracing me.
That child of Mill Creek,
Yeah.
how did it get to be who you are now?
I think I'm very much a product of that childhood. I had 7 siblings, my 2 parents. We all lived in 3 rooms, not 3 bedrooms, 3 rooms, a front room,
3 total rooms.
a middle room, and a kitchen. We chopped wood, we hauled coal and burned them in cast iron stoves in the middle of potbelly stoves in our bedroom. Nobody ever fell on the stove, and miraculously, when I look back on it. We boiled water because we had no hot water coming out of the faucet.
So this was a cold water flat.
Absolutely, absolutely. A shotgun, too. And so I grew up just learning how to work. My father was the janitor of our church, and I like to say that when your father is the janitor of the church, you're the janitor of the church. So we went to church, but we also cleaned the church. My father had a beautiful baritone voice. He was the minister of music at our church. So we sang in the church. We were ushers. We went to prayer meeting. My mother was very involved in volunteering in our schools. So we had, and the other thing about schools is that our teachers lived in our community too. So you couldn't really get away from that. So I am very much a part of the community. I like to work. I'm not afraid of work. I have a good work ethic. And I think that's all because of how I was raised.
How can one reach you again? How can they get
Well, you can get me on my website, which is Vivian Gibson 72. No, that's my Gmail. VivianGibson72.com at gmail.com. That's probably the easiest way.
Okay. Anything that you want to tell us I didn't ask you about?
I am happy to interview anyone that we can get on our schedule who grew up in Mill Creek, who is interested in sharing their story. I talk about my story, but it's very clear to me when I speak to other people, other ages, people who spent their entire childhoods there or into young adult, that their stories are different. So I want all the perspectives I could get about what life was like in Mill Creek.
Do you get any of the children of Mill Creek, their stories also, that people who perhaps have passed on and told their children about it?
Well, that's an interesting perspective. I do have a father and a daughter that I want to interview, where we're talking to him and we're talking to her about the stories he told about that. So that we might try some of that too.
So how can we get the book? Well, about a minute.
You can get the book just about anywhere, certainly on Amazon. It'll be there tomorrow, but it's in all the major bookstores. Left Bank Books has done a wonderful job still promoting this book and selling it.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Bernie.
Thank you very much, and thanks each and every one of you for supporting us here at the New Life Evangelistic Center. I'm Bernie Hayes. Have a great day. Until next time.